Showtime, a-holes.
I don't know why that amuses me so much. I could just start the video, but I gotta have fun with that. All right, so today, if it wasn't painfully obvious from the title and the graphic and all that, we're going to be doing a first-round mock draft. I was kind of trying to figure out, obviously, I want to dive headfirst into this mock stuff. I'm super excited about the draft. I've barely dipped my toe into it. But now that the offseason has started, I don't get the constant and incessant, can we please just wait? It's too early for this, all that kind of stuff. Now, if you throw that at me, I'm just going to tell you to shut up because it's not too early anymore. But I was trying to figure out, should we do the 7-round Packers thing or whatever? But I think we're so early in it. It's good to kind of get acclimated with some of the earlier guys. Obviously, everybody wants to kind of figure out the first round thing. So why don't we just do that? We're going to keep it as basic as possible. I've got Jake Shavink here with me. If you don't know, he is our resident draft guy over at Packernet. And so we're going to do first round, no trades, and we're just going to go with Jake's perception of what would make the most sense from his perception of where the teams are at and the players that are available. As we kind of move a little bit further into this, it would probably be we'll start shifting into what we're hearing from teams type of stuff and go from there. But this is just, I know everybody gets uppity and gets sensitive about all this stuff. This is just very basic baseline getting started into this. So please don't cry in the comment section, even though I know you're going to anyways. But I suppose without further ado, if I don't mess this up here, there we go. I was going to say, why is it on the freaking Cardinals? Why don't we just go ahead and get started here? I feel like most of us are on the same page with the first pick. There are a couple different options, but I am curious from your perspective with the number one pick and the Chicago Bears, what direction you think that they should go.
I think it's quarterback. I don't think they can kind of like pontificate all they want all offseason, be like, ooh, who are we bringing in offensive coordinator? You don't know, but it sounds like it's going to be Shane Waldron, who, to me, it looked like when the offense was best with Waldron, they're slinging it around the yard. Like if you watch how they played against Dallas, like they were like, yeah, we're not running the ball that much. We're just going to let it fly. Yeah. To me, that means I think it's time to move on at QB. I don't know if there's going to be scar tissue in their room with like a Drake May. Ooh, he's North Carolina. I think people on Twitter do that more than they do.
Right.
But I do think they'll probably just, I think, fall in love with the upside that Caleb Williams provides you, right? With all the arm talent, everything he does out of structure, the scramble ability. And I think just thinking about him in the way you think about maybe Mahomes, who had to kind of figure out how to sort of matriculate the ball down with like, short throws and working in structure, kind of the way Jordan Love did as well. Like the way he, started to figure that out in structure. I think Williams can get there very easily. And you've got already these high level things he does on film. So can't
Caleb
imagine
Williams.
they'd go. Yeah, I think we go Caleb Williams here for Chicago.
So do you think, because I mean, that's obviously the way the NFL is going, is bet on these high upside Mahomes guys.
Yeah.
Do you think obviously nobody really actually lets guys sit, but do you think maybe Drake May might be the safer pick if we're saying you have to start day one, or is it kind of not a big deal either way?
I think either way, I think they both are fine to start right away. I get the Caleb thing where it's kind of like, okay, he just kind of like plays schoolyard ball a lot and you're kind of worried about that a little bit. I do think though there are certain concepts you see him executing well. And I think the one thing he does really, really well that's underrated is he gets to that check down quickly. Like he's not afraid to like, all right, I don't see this down the field. I'm going to get to my running back. And I think he does that really well. I think that kind of like gets pushed way to the back burner. So I don't think he's going to necessarily be like super overwhelmed per se. I know there probably will be struggles, as there often is with young quarterbacks, but I think either way, I think you're starting these guys immediately.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I kind of liked about Jordan a little bit, is that he's very decisive and wasn't, he got the ball out just quickly to the right person at the right time. It wasn't always screw the check down, I'm looking down the field. So
yeah,
that's all right. Washington now with the number 2 pick. What direction do you want to go here?
I think it also has to be QB. I don't think they just are going to automatically like regime change in Washington and just be like, yeah, we're fine with this 5th round QB, Sam Howell, who took 65 sacks last year. and yeah, it is just like, Mr. Hold on to the football. I just don't think that, like, I think they probably are going to view him as like, oh, this is a nice backup we have in the building right now who can come in and spot start and be, a higher level arm talented Minshew that kind of Indy has. But I don't think they're going to pass at QB this high. It would be very strange to see them take like a tackle. And like, I know they need help there, but when you're this high, and this is like, some people view it a 2 QB class, others view it a 3 QB class. I think you got to go Drake May here.
Yeah. And, they'll probably play that whole game too, where it's like, Sam Howell is our starting quarterback all through the offseason and everything. And he'll take like the starting reps through the first 2 practices and then he'll get replaced.
Yeah.
It'll be that whole song and dance that nobody will believe.
I'm sure Chicago will say that a few more times as we work into February here too.
Yep.
So it would not shock me.
So Patriots, it's been kind of boring so far. I don't know if we're going to go different this way. I was honestly kind of surprised to see, I hadn't been paying close enough attention. I guess Jaden Daniels had gone so far, so fast up the boards. Does that make sense here, or do you want to go in a different direction?
It does. I think the one thing to note, and I know you're kind of like, Jake, what's your feel on this and like, where should they go? I think it's notable that you see guys like Brugler and Jeremiah that are kind of like, yeah, I think Marvin Harrison's in play for them and they won't go QB right away. And I think that's a big notable thing. It's early in the process, of course, right, for a lot of these teams to start meeting with guys. But for them to pass, that's really interesting to me. I don't think it's just they're not playing the odds well if they pass. And they're like, oh yeah, we'll take one later. It just doesn't seem like the smart thing to do. Like statistically, not smart at all. I think they probably have to go QB here. I don't think Jane Daniels might be a step down, a tier down from these guys, but you've kind of seen, to me, the like Jalen Hurts level growth in college, where it's like every year this guy's just getting better at certain parts of the game. And you see him, I think, working through progressions a lot better. He's not afraid to uncork it accurately down the field. And then, of course, he has a cheat code where he can just, he just take off 80-yard touchdowns, 50-yard runs like they're no problem at all. To me, I don't think New England can just go, yeah, we'll just pass at QB, like no problem, we're good.
So from an ear to the ground perspective, take note of the fact that they might actually go in a different direction, but from your perspective, that would be kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I just don't know if you're going to be like, yes, we'll just wait, second round QB, Bo Nix, it's no problem. Like, we'll just do that. And I know from the media, from like Jeremiah, it sounds like that might not even be an option, which is kind of wild to think about. But
yeah,
I don't know. They're New England. They're weird. They could easily pass a QB at 3.
Well, it's hard to know what New England even is anymore, isn't it? With with Bill Belichick out of the building, I don't know what that's going to do as far as how they move forward. But
yeah, I don't know what the structure is going to look like at all. It's a very young, like, oh, I've just taken a head coaching job. Like, I know I was groomed to be the guy, kind of, but like, it's going to be weird. It's going to be weird if ownership's got control.
I have to assume this has got to be best case scenario for the Arizona Cardinals. Is that not correct?
Yeah, I think so. Truthfully, I don't think they could go wrong with either of the top 2. If I'm being perfectly honest, I think you could 1A, 1B these 2 receivers, and I would not mind at all if Neighbors is the pick at 4. But yeah, Arizona going Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4 if this is the scenario, right? Like I don't see. I think Neighbors would be extremely fun in that offense personally, with Kyler just uncorking the ball to him. But I think you give him a more reliable player a little bit in terms of separation, possession stuff. Just keep it straightforward in Arizona. But yeah, this is easily their best case scenario. I think they just pick whoever they want to help out Murray in the offense.
So maybe in that case, it's the best case scenario for the Chargers.
Yeah, honestly, and maybe even the Giants too, depending on how this goes. But oh yeah, the Chargers. I know, like, Brugler did this where I think he put, if I remember, Bowers to them at 5.
Yeah,
boy, that seems early to me.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that because they have it listed as their top need, but when you got Neighbors sitting there to go tight end, seems bold.
Yeah, I think Bowers is at the very least a top 5 prospect in the class, but we're gonna keep having this conversation because Kyle Pitts went 4th.
Right.
He hasn't hit anywhere close to the level he hit as a rookie, and you just see all these 2nd and 3rd round tight ends just panning out so well, and you're like, should we be spending premium capital in the top 5 on a player like that? We'll see. Right, like if he runs 4.5, I think their old GM would be thrilled to draft a player who runs slower, but like, it's just, I can't imagine tight end at 5, even
Well,
if it's Bowers.
look at Detroit as a case study. You know, they went early tight end, then they got rid of him, drafted a guy in the second round who looks significantly better than the guy that they got, and they've done that twice. They got Ebron too, that didn't pan out. So, yeah, I mean, it's always exciting. Every year you think it's going to be different. You think Pitts is different, Bowers is different, but especially like you said, when you look at how talented some of these, you know, mid to late-ish round guys can be, it's really hard to justify it. But all right, so if we take Bowers off, we got Malik Neighbors there. Is there anybody else that is appealing in this range?
I mean, ideally, it'd be great to protect your quarterback with someone other than like, you know, Trey Pipkins playing right tackle. I think that'd be a good call for them, but they have lacked explosiveness at wide receiver way too long. This is the own up to it. Quentin Johnson is not working right now. We gotta and Williams and Allen are both like getting up there. Their contracts are huge.
Right. Yeah, they're both potential cut casualties this year.
Yeah, I think you go Neighbors here, and you give Herbert and Neighbors would be. Oh man,
yeah.
The AFC West is not thrilled about that at all. So,
all right, we got the Giants at 6 now.
Oh man, it's insane to even go here. I feel like just because like you just don't see this very often. If they get an opportunity to take Daniels, I think they might jump at it, even though they've already done the thing we talked about earlier. Oh, Daniel Jones is definitely our starter next year, by the way. Like he's our guy, no problem. Like to me, I don't know if they get a chance at Daniels, I think they'll pounce. Otherwise, I don't think they're gonna do that.
Yeah,
it would be interesting if they went like Alter Fashanu and tried Neal at like guard, because he clearly is not working at tackle right now. That ship might have sailed.
Right.
But I have a feeling they're gonna do the thing. I think when Roma Dunze tests and he shows up, like look at all the size, look at contested catchability. Man. I can't believe this. I think that right now the gut feeling here is it's going to be a Dunze at 6, which is just insane to think about right now. Like 3 receivers, top 6.
Yeah,
but
so again, though, I mean that makes sense. What they're gonna what would you want them to do in this spot?
Oh, man. I mean, I'd probably want them to. I think they should go alt over for Shanu. The only reason is because I think they would be more committed to the idea of running Barkley, running Jones, right? Getting that QB run thing involved. And I think alt's a better run blocker right now. He's going to give you a lot more there. So based on fit, I would go alt, but gut feeling, if you asked me, like, all right, where's the sense of what they're gonna do? It feels like it's gonna be Roma Dunze.
I'm just not gonna feel bad for them when they suck at that point. It's like, you got all these core pieces that you can add to your team, and you go with a wide receiver, which is just. Well, we'll see how it shakes out, but that would just be one of those. I hope you fail because you deserve it. Yeah. Tennessee Titans at pick 7, another team that definitely could use quite a bit of help.
Yeah. This to me is Olu Fashanu. Yeah. They have other picks. They can add more to the receiver room. This is a deep class. I don't think you mess around. You just tell yourself, okay, like Dillard, we tried that, didn't work. Skoronski's got to play inside. Like all these guys, Petit Frere, Jalen Duncan, like they've thrown so much to the line, and I know it hasn't worked very well. I think Skoronski had some nice games here and there. He's still got to figure it out a little bit more, but like to me, this is protect Will Levis if you believe in him with Fashanu.
Yeah, and it feels to me like when they were at their best, they had a really good offensive line, and as soon as that started to fall apart, the team fell apart. So yeah, I mean it's kind of like what I was pleading with Dallas about for a long time. They were such a powerhouse with that offensive line, they allowed it to fall apart, and it's like the formula is obvious here, guys. Like, come on now.
Yeah, when they had Lawan and Conklin on the bookends playing tackle,
it was goodness,
were they just crushing out there? And
yeah,
they got to get back there. So Fashanu, the best fit, I don't know. Obviously, it's gonna be a new coach though. Right, so Vrabel out, they might not be like, oh, well, maybe he's not the best run blocker, but it's like, you can unlock play strength as a run blocker. I think he did better this past year, but you're getting, a 20-year-old player, 21-year-old guy, like, was been dominant for 2 years at left tackle and pass protection. There's no passing that up.
So the Falcons at 8, they've obviously spent a lot of time and resources the last couple of years going offensive weapons. Are they going to continue to lean into that, or maybe try something else for once? Because they got Bowers and Odunze sitting right there.
Yes, they do. Pitts and Bowers, goodness sakes. No, I think like the Falcons, I believe they have 2 seconds. I want to say, I could be wrong in that regard, but like
look that up.
I think they have 2 seconds. If not, either way, I think they'll play the patient game.
They have 2/3.
They have 2/3. Okay. Yeah, with 4 picks, first 2 days, deep receiver class, as I mentioned before, I don't think they have to force the issue here. To me, this is an edge rusher. Yeah. And I think they could go either way with this. I would probably lean Jared Verse, honestly, over the other two, just because there's questions about Latu's health, right? Like he had to medically retire. Obviously, he's back now. I would still just question to see if that clears and everything's good there. I hope so. And also, like Ebikedes, the other guys they have on the edge are really lighter. And Turner's in that camp, like at 240. I think you could just go a little bit bigger on the edge and get a guy like Verse who's explosive, powerful, great hand usage, just top notch as a rusher.
So I think the Bears are kind of actually interesting here. I think a lot of people would immediately jump on either Bowers or Odunze to pair with Caleb Williams. I just wonder, you've already got a wide receiver 1 locked up. You've got a decent enough tight end. Do you possibly look to bolster that defense with your defensive head coach? I know they were proud of what their defense did down the stretch, but they need a lot of help there. And you got guys like Turner, Latu, Jerzon Newton there. I just wonder if maybe those are an option, or if we're just going to say, screw it, balls to the wall, help Caleb Williams.
I think an underrated potential need is corner, right? If they can't get Jalen Johnson, that deal done or anything like that, which I think jumps not even the guy you see on the screen or the guy below him on the screen. I think it jumps Terrion Arnold into the conversation at 9 over the other 3 in front of him. I just stemming from what Brugler and DJ both had. They both have Arnold off the board far ahead of the others. That to me, I think just the way he played this year, and I think how fluid, how agile he looks, like the testing's probably gonna be super. Underrated need. I think though, you make a good like edge. I think you make a good point at like Sweat's there. That's nice. Who's opposite him? Do we have that? Do we have a 3 tech who can attack?
It'd be nice if Sweat was number 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it would be. And I think if they're, to me, based on what like Eberflus has done, it would probably be Latu over Turner because he's a little bit heavier, right? A bigger guy who can kind of do everything, defend the run, rush the passer, be a bigger guy out there to contain. But I keep seeing Turner getting mocked there by a lot of Chicago people. And it's like, maybe they just think that Turner can handle it. But I don't think the Eberflus scheme does. I don't kind of buy that. I would lean Latu here if it's not a Dunze.
All right. That brings up the New York Jets. Potentially with Aaron Rodgers this time, we're going to run it back. So are we going to load up a healthy and rejuvenated Aaron Rodgers? Or I suppose that probably makes the most sense, right? You're proud of your defense as it is. If you're actually going to do this thing, I mean, you tried the Lazard Cobb route. I don't think that worked out too well.
Yeah, it did not. I mean, with Ryan, we both know what the smart thing is here, right? Did you see what the offensive line is?
Yeah,
like that can't happen again. We can't be running that back at all.
Yeah,
but I'm just not sure.
Well, that's
those
that's
next
kind of
3.
I mean, how much do we like him? I guess is the question.
Although
it might not matter because it's a question of how much better is it than what they have, and the answer is probably significantly.
I think the one thing about these next 3 is they're all like predominantly right tackles.
Okay.
So I don't know if they're going to be looking like even further down. Like if Fautanu does like really well next week, we're getting there. We're getting there. Too old for this. We're getting there. I'm just saying. I think like if they wanted the left tackle, it's either Fautanu or they're like, maybe Mims can play there, and like those would be the 2 because I think Mims could, after the combine, kind of potentially be the 3rd tackle. I think they're going to go with Dunze.
Yeah,
they're going to go with Dunze just over the tight end. I think their tight end room's like okay. I know Bowers makes it a heck of a lot better, but like to me, the value of like Dunze over Lazard as wide receiver 2 is a little bit more than like a Bowers over their others. So
Appreciate you, Mike Hebring, aka Packer Superfan. He says, "I want Tyler Nubin at 25 as long as Joe B is gone." I'm not going to say that Jake has to abide by any bought picks, but if I ever do my own mock draft, you can buy whatever the hell you want. I don't care.
Yeah, we'll see where when we get to 25, we'll see at the donations who's
Yeah.
who who do you really want? Who do you
Yeah,
really
how bad
want
do
at
you want
25?
Tyler
Yeah.
Nubin at 25?
How bad do you want Cooper DeJean? You want us to move up?
Yeah, you want it?
Yeah.
We can trade right now.
We'll trade up anytime.
That Jets thing is going to be funny though. I mean, it's crazy because you look at it. If you think about it, it's like you look at the wide receiver room now with Odunze, and it's like, oh, that could be scary. But at the same time, you just picture like, is Rodgers going to make it through the first 3 weeks of the season? I don't know if he's going to. And at that point, what's the point? So I don't know.
It's not like, oh, hey, look at this like super high quality tackle. It's a free agent. Like definitely a thing that happens very often, right? They're gonna have to patchwork it somehow. It's not gonna be easy, and not impossible that we see this is a trade back spot for the Jets.
I was going to ask you that too, because you want to get back into where the tackles make a little bit more sense. Yeah. You can recoup a little bit more value and kind of load up a little bit. Maybe even, with those extra picks, pick up some interior guys to kind of help you out too.
Yeah.
All right, Minnesota now. Another interesting situation here. I don't know what's going on with their quarterback or whatnot, but we still got some pretty good options available for them.
Yeah, and Adam, yeah, I'm sure that the scouts have already walked over to Joe Douglas and like, hey, we are just praying one of those top 2 tackles gets to 10. Yeah, I guarantee it. There's no doubt. But yeah, Minnesota, it's got to be defense. I know that like Flores did a pretty good job, right? Like for about, I don't know, 13, 14 weeks. Yeah. They were like, man, he's just finding a way with this very mediocre like group of guys. And then it was like, oh, well, there it goes. You now see that this is mediocre, and like he can only do so much when teams, especially like when you're playing division rivals coming back for a second time, like they kind of know a little bit more about where to attack. So
that's kind of how it seemed too. A lot of people were talking about that early on. He was smashing people, and then they figured out how to play you. And that's not to say that you're completely washed up, like you said. When you don't have enough resources, it's possible you can't do everything you want to do. But so that makes sense. So if we are looking defense here, we got Dallas Turner, Jerzon Newton, Kool-Aid McKinstry. So we kind of got a good, your defensive front. You got your cornerbacks. Do you have a particular position in mind?
I think I would lean Dallas Turner here just because Danielle Hunter, free agent.
Yeah.
There's not a lot behind him either. If you go like, okay, well, we'll bring him back. It's still, not that deep. And I get the Newton thing, but like once you see, if the viewers right now, the listeners, if you haven't seen kind of where Newton's been going with DJ with Brugler on their mocks, like it's starting to seem like he might be somebody who is viewed by just a certain number of teams who have him in a certain role. And if you're pigeonholing him to a certain role as a defensive tackle, to me, I'm not sure if that's top 15.
Sure.
So I think I would lean Turner here. I don't know about drafting a corner high for them. They can't seem to get corner right.
Oh, they can't.
No matter what they do.
At all.
And I like some of the players they picked. It has not worked, period.
Right.
I don't know what they could do. Sign
guys. Similar curse to what we had before Jair hit is just stop doing it because it's not going to work.
Go try to poach Jalen Johnson, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Just
I don't know what you can do.
Buy somebody else's success.
Yeah, L'Jarius Sneed from Kansas, something like that.
Denver Broncos now on the clock.
I'm gonna save the people I'm gonna save you from the commenters here. Let's just go Bowers. I've had enough of the like, oh, I hate this pick being a corner. It's like, okay, but like Terry and Arnold and Pat Surtain would be sick playing as that duo. And I could see them going edge too, but obviously all 3 of them are off. Like the consensus like top tier of guys are gone here. Yeah. So I think it's Newton or Bowers. I think Bowers, depending on what they're going to bring in at QB, there's obviously still that question of like, okay, where's Cousins going to go? Is Russ going to take someone's spot elsewhere?
Yeah.
Could Denver bring in Cousins? I don't know. Like a lot of options. Could Denver go QB?
Yeah,
potentially.
Right.
But I think if Bowers is here for them, I think it's somebody that is going to make your offense, at least over the middle of the field, a lot more dangerous. It just seems like they kind of like Mims and Sutton and all these guys are like, yes, this is for Wilson, where just the middle field doesn't exist, and we just throw to the perimeter a bunch. And it feels like this is where they, I think, would turn.
So, well, first of all, Packers Superfan, thanks again for the $1.99. Says if Barry isn't gone, I'm drafting all offense. I do understand where you're coming from with that, but obviously that doesn't make sense because the team obviously wouldn't agree with that assessment, right? If they're keeping him, they think he's good, and if they don't, then they're not going to. But I'm with you. I hope that they go offense if they bring back Joe Barry because I just don't have any expectations. Yeah. All right, Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously, questions: could they possibly go quarterback? How far away are we here? So, first, where do you see these guys? Like, where's their earliest possibly going?
This is a really tough question because if you ask, you could ask like two different people, and you get two ridiculously different answers.
Sure.
I think this is what obviously the big separator is with mocks versus how you view players. I know that there are guys that, I value their opinion, in the industry a lot. They have Penix as their QB3 unequivocally over Daniels.
Okay.
But at the same time, I think they also understand that, like, okay, these injuries that he suffered, shoulder twice, 2 knee injuries, and he's about to be 24, that, like, that might not be something teams are willing to take the risk on in the top 15. As far as who the next one off the board might be, it seems like DJ thinks it's Bo Nix, which he's played well. This isn't Auburn Bo Nix that's playing out at Oregon. At the same time, JJ McCarthy is 20 years old. Pretty good arm talent for a guy 20 years old who you could, in theory, take the Jordan Love route with a player like McCarthy, and kind of be like, all right, maybe when he's 22, maybe he's entering year 3, or even year 2, we feel good about where he's at, rather than just the guy you just kick out there and maybe throw him to the wolves perhaps right away.
Sure.
But if I'm the Raiders, like, I think this is where, you want to bring up, like, who could trade up. If Daniels is still there after New England's pick and they don't go and they don't take him, this is the team that I think would make the move because there's a connection with Pierce and Daniels at Arizona State. And I'm sure they've been monitoring that progress that he's been making.
Sure.
Aiden O'Connell, not the answer. Jimmy Garoppolo, not the answer. So I think they could be in the QB market in that way, not necessarily taking one of these guys at 13. Probably at this spot, I think it's Taliesin Fuaga at right tackle. I think you build that offensive line up. If there's just not, a QB you like here, maybe there's not a defender you really like a lot either, but I would lean tackle. I think they need it at right tackle. I think Colton Miller's been fine at left tackle, but to me, like, they've been winning games where they haven't been super, like, a super dominant team in the trenches, and I think that mentality changes with Pierce having control on an off season.
All right, next up, New Orleans Saints, another floundering team that needs a little bit of a spark here. I don't know if that's what they need is on the board right here, but what do you think?
Oh, am I going to break the hearts of everybody in here right now? Probably. No, I think actually, no.
Okay.
I think we're okay. Right. Actually, I think we're okay because I do think they added Brzee, right? I think they have enough at defensive tackle where I don't see them doing it back-to-back first rounds. Not to say that nobody has ever done that.
Sure,
it's entirely possible. I think with 4 corners on the board, and the cornerback play's been a little spotty recently. I'm going to lean Terrion Arnold here. I think I was blown away. I finished this film. I finished the eval video coming out soon. Like, he is excellent. I'm impressed. And there's versatility in there too. And that's that. I know everybody wants the Gene at 25. That's my hope at 25 right there.
Is it?
Terrion Arnold.
You're no longer
I'm on the train for DeGene.
I get it, but you've changed.
There is a new sheriff in town.
Wow.
And it's Terrion Arnold.
All right, so here's a question for you. I've done running backs and I've done wide receivers, and that's it so far. What is the next most fun position that you think, like, this is a really good group if I were to watch, like, the top 100 or something?
I mean, the easy answer is tackle, right? Like, there's like 15 guys that might go like on the first 75 picks. It feels like with how mocks are trending with a lot of the big media guys. There's so many. Like even like Kieran Amagaji from Yale.
Yeah.
Really, really talented player. I know Dominic Puny, who from Kansas was going to be in Mobile next week. He showed up at 45th on Brugler's latest mock to New Orleans. That kind of jumped out. I'm like, oh, good. Yes. Another guy that's right in the middle of all the chaos at tackle. Like this is
right.
It's going to be mad.
Another good year for the Packers to get their starting left tackle in the 4th round.
Could be. It could be. Not impossible. I would go there, or if you want to see some of the top, some of the top defensive tackles are really intriguing. Past Newton.
Okay. I do like watching those guys too. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah. The Adams comments yes, I do. I do just watch Neighbors versus Arnold. I'll also watch Adonai Mitchell versus Arnold. That's a great battle too.
Indianapolis Colts now. What are you thinking?
Now it's time to break the hearts of everybody.
All right,
here.
Fine.
So here's the thing. I do think
make it to 25.
I do think Indy is primed to trade back. They have 7 picks in this draft. There's no way Ballard's only making 7 picks. That's just not his style at all.
Yeah.
So I imagine they'll trade out of this spot. But if they're gonna stick in the Gus Bradley cover 3 heavy defense, there's a guy who can play some off cover, some zone, good eye discipline, great tackler. They're still young in the room. Probably Cooper DeJean is the best fit here for this team.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and I think this is a good thing, guys. We're gonna get this out of the way now. We're gonna get the disappointment out early.
Right. You don't want him to make it to 24.
He's gonna test out of his mind too.
Yeah.
The explosion drills, right? The broad jump, the vertical jump. He's gonna light those up. He's gonna run a fast 40. Teams are going to be enamored with the versatility. It's just let's just set ourselves up now. It's a good time to do it.
So does that answer Daniel's question, or is there somebody else you have in mind as far as a Brian Branch like tackling type of guy?
That's safety. I mean, I like Bullard's versatility at Georgia. It's just a question of how big is he? Right, because Goody still likes to stay bigger. But I mean, Tyler Newman's a great tackler. Tyler Newman's great filling the alley. Tyler Newman's kind of great at everything, and he's already playing in a lot of like too high stuff. And if Barry is retained and sticks with a lot of that, like it's going to be a pretty good fit.
Sure.
So I like both of those two a lot.
All right, Seattle Seahawks up next.
Okay. This is like the sneaky JJ McCarthy spot, just right off the bat, because Gino's getting older. Now we've got a new coach in here. Don't know who it's going to be yet, of course. But like, if they're kind of sitting there like, okay, well, we can play this, like potentially contend now, potentially also contend later. I think they could do that. To me, I think it's probably either going to be, if it's not QB, it's going to be defensive tackle. And it's probably gonna be Newton or Byron Murphy. It's been great to see the Byron Murphy love continue to rise. DJ had him going 11th to the Vikings.
Wow.
And Brugler had him going right here. We'll stick with Newton for now. I think he gives them a little more juice just as a pass rusher only, but I do think Murphy is pretty well rounded for a guy at like I think 6'2", 6'3", 306, and I think he's going to have a heck of a week. But we'll go with Newton. Really good one-gapper. They could also potentially lean, like, if they like Fontenot a lot and I think he can play guard, might be an option. But it'll be interesting to see if they would go interior offensive line at 16. They kind of need it, but I think you go after a guy like Newton. Makes sense.
All right. Sorry about all the printer noises. My wife apparently very important that she prints everything right now. So I'll let you take the Jaguars and I'll remute myself.
All right. Yeah, Jacksonville, they have a lot going on there. And yeah, Adam, that's 100%. Like Ballard's going to always, these great athletes, a lot of size, right? DeJean's like 6'2", 207. So yeah, it's a very Ballard selection. Jacksonville could go corner. Jacksonville could go offensive line. Jacksonville could find themselves a receiver and let Ridley go. And if they don't get Josh Allen back at edge rusher, they could also go edge. Like there's going to be a lot of options for them. I'm gonna say that the pick is Brian Thomas Jr. at this spot, not Keon Coleman. I think Thomas is going to pass him when all is said and done, at least from a team perspective. And he's got the vertical element to the game. Lawrence, you can push the ball down the field with him as well. He can get open underneath. I think you just love the full roll-rounded skill set. He hasn't been asked to run a ton of routes yet. Doesn't mean he can't. And so I think they need some level of reliability in that receiver room too.
All right. That brings us pick 18 to the Cincinnati Bengals. Looks like they've got another wide receiver needy team potentially, but I don't know. Well, I guess they still got a couple options in that route, but is that the direction you're thinking for them, or do we go into it? Because I know potentially they're supposedly losing Higgins. Might be the reason for that.
Yeah, I think they probably are going to lose him. I just don't imagine that with what they're handling right now, contract wise, with a lot of their guys, and also having to pay Chase, in a year or two, they can probably find the wide receiver too, a younger player in this draft. They also drafted 2 guys last year. I know it was a lot later, but I think they were also kind of prepared for this. And I'm not going to take the receiver here because I think they have other pressing things. I think this would be Byron Murphy potentially at defensive tackle, or they get their right tackle and they got to protect Joe Burrow, who has somehow now, been knocked out for 2 of his first,
crazy
2 of his first 4 seasons now. You can't keep doing this.
Right.
I think Latham's a little more polished than Mims, and I think they would lean that direction for now. We'll see because Mims, he just hasn't played a lot of snaps.
Okay.
And there's obviously a ton of upside there, but I think they'll go maybe a little more reliable there with Latham, play right tackle.
All right, LA Rams, seemingly somehow still sticking around in the playoff hunt as they, I thought they were going to be out of that for a while as they start rebuilding, but they're still doing a pretty good job with that. So,
yeah,
what are you thinking for them?
I think it's corner. I don't think they could go tackle. It could be Amarius Mims, entirely possible.
Shut up, too old for this. Smack you.
We would have had Wicks at QB. It would have been sick.
Yeah, it'd be so good.
Yeah, I think it's Amarius Mims or it's Kool-Aid. I would lean Kool-Aid a little bit more. I think the need is a lot bigger at corner. I think their secondary kind of has been prone to meltdown. They've got a lot of day 3 picks out there, and some have been playing decent ball, but it's a great opportunity to upgrade here with McKinstry.
All right, Pittsburgh Steelers. The I don't know what to think of the Pittsburgh Steelers. On one hand, it's really impressive, the fact that they never have losing records. On the other hand, it's but you're never really good. So you feel like we kind of got to get over that hump a little bit here.
Yeah. With all these QBs on the board.
Yeah, you wonder.
You really do. You wonder if
when do you pull the cord here?
It's I know that Pittsburgh is very much like the team that goes, yeah, hey, but we can just go 10-7 with Pickett or Rudolph. It's okay, cool. What does that get you?
Yeah,
another,
and when
first
you're
round exit, I don't get it. Is that the goal every year?
And that's the problem when you get to 10 wins, you always feel well, maybe if we just add a little bit here, a little bit there, we can kind of get over the hump. But it's you've got a hard ceiling right now with your quarterback. It looks like.
Yeah, not to mention you're playing in a conference with Lamar, Burrow, Rodgers, Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, right? All these guys are coming back. That Stroud, potentially Richardson. This is a gauntlet, okay?
Right.
And the best thing Indy did was swing big last year after Stroud came off because we probably need a demigod basically to win this conference.
Right.
So yeah, it could be because now that I'm the mind is churning here. I'm thinking okay, who's picking later? None of those guys are taking QB, are they? We might need to get a 4th one off the board at this point. But I do think it's probably going to end up being somebody coming back in for someone, and we can kind of talk about that when we get there.
Sure.
To me, I think they're going to take a corner here. They're going to take Wiggins because they still need it, even though they drafted Porter, right? This is that rare, like, oh, they just drafted a corner like at 32 overall. It's like, but yeah, they also had a terrible year other than him, in the secondary, and that can't keep happening. It's another kind of Wiggins or Mims type of thing. They could beef up the line. I'm gonna lean. I think they're gonna stick with like, okay, yeah, the defense is the defense is our problem. We can roll with QB. We're okay, and get Wiggins off the board here. This is a little bit earlier.
Steelers, man, just got to have a great defense and we'll be fine.
We'll be good. We're fine. We're okay. We're okay.
It's kind of like Miami just saying we need another wide receiver.
Yeah, pretty much.
We just need more speed, man.
Yeah,
we're just got a little faster.
We'll take Xavier Worthy here. He's going to run a 4.29 or something like that. He's perfect fit.
All right.
That's a
good question first of all from Daniel.
Mm-hmm. Do I think Newman will make it to second round pick positions? I think the first second rounders at 41, right? Is that where they're at? I believe the Jets pick, because it's been locked in now.
Yeah.
Right, it's 41. Yeah, it's going to be close. 41. I'll just say that. I think it's possible. Not guaranteed by any stretch. And that's the worry I have with Green Bay, because like Rod Moore went back, and like, oh, the safety class starting to thin out right now. And like, ooh, this might be the deal of like, you better take one at 25.
Yeah.
Not mess around. And that might be the case for them. He could. It won't. I don't think he makes it to like 57, wherever Green Bay is in that second, which I think that's where they're at right now, which is locked in. 57 seems like a stretch. So maybe 41, but it'll be tight, I think.
All right, Miami Dolphins now on the clock.
Yeah. We can't keep doing this thing at offensive line. We can't keep doing this. And also they're going to potentially lose Connor Williams at center, Robert Hunt at guard. Not great. Not great. I think what's nice about at least what the NFL thinks, what's nice about Troy Fontenot is that he potentially can play multiple positions. However, Graham Barton has already proven that he can do that. He has played center in the past. He's probably getting kicked into guard. Would I take Fontenot first if I needed a tackle? Yeah. If I need like everything and like somewhere to just be plug and play, like we need him off the board, he might be an interior O-line. It's possible. Seems crazy that he'd be super low. Yeah. There we go. Or I think if they just want the center, Powers Johnson's awesome. He's excellent. But I'll for now, we'll just lean the kind of positionally flexible Graham Barton, who can just potentially play everywhere.
All right, Philadelphia Eagles now on the clock. I honestly, I know what happened to them, but I have no idea why. I don't know what the heck happened to cause them to go from a Super Bowl contender, like midway through this season, still being a Super Bowl contender, to being what felt like one of the worst teams in football. Like they couldn't beat the Cardinals and the Giants. So yeah. I don't know what they need to do. I know they've got some aging pieces, especially on defense, that they've been clinging to. They might need to replace, but it's looking pretty bleak.
Yeah. This might be like, this draft for Philly might be like the time where they're like, okay, well, we haven't done anything at linebacker the past 7 years. Oh, it finally caught up to us against, and that Arizona game was really like, they were kind of doing what teams do to Green Bay with like getting precedent coverage.
Sure.
We're like, we're just going to trot two tight ends out there, and then we're going to spread you out. So Hassan Reddick has to play the slot.
Yeah.
Which is kind of hysterical. And then they'll just run on you a bunch too. Like they broke Philly in that game, which is kind of funny. Like they're going to have to get better at linebacker. They're going to have to get better at safety. But is Howie Roseman really in the first round going to be like, yeah, I'm just going to throw all that out. We're fine. We'll do something different. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I wonder if Barton would be someone for them. Potentially could play center, right? You have if Kelsey doesn't come back, and also Lane Johnson. There's always been that talk too, right? Like, is he going to retire soon? So I think all of that's on the board as well. But I do think like their pass rush unit's not been like super great. This could be a Braylon Trice where they're
Okay.
saying like, all right, we go bigger because I think they have their like Reddick and Nolan Smith position kind of defined on that defensive line. Where on the other side, they're like, we could just maybe we'll just throw more edge. This would have been a corner spot for one of the top guys. They're all off. Oh, this is a tough spot for them. I don't like this at all. Adam makes a good point. Like Kingsley Suamate is 20 years old and could sit there, but like you're in a window. Like we need to get people out there who can
Well, that's
play.
what's tough too. It's like, even as you're talking, they need so much stuff. Like
Yeah.
they're going to be losing a bunch of their offensive line. They're potentially tackle and center.
Yeah.
They need edge help. They need linebacker help. They need corner help. It's just, it seems like they are in a window, but it also seems like I don't know if we can fix it this year. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, but they need a lot of stuff.
Oh boy. Part of me wants to just say like just might as well just take Quinion Mitchell here, who can play pretty well in zone coverage, and your corners are getting older and just did not play well at all.
Yeah. Hopefully help your pass rush too.
It's a tough one. This is really tough because there's so much that like, that's a good point by Heretical.
That's kind of what I'm wondering. Yeah,
it's a good point. I mean, they could have, and it's going to be hard if like your GM just like doesn't change his style at all, and like, yep, we're gonna. I know they fired their DC. I don't think I'd bring their offensive coordinator back either. To be honest, perfectly honest with you, I think they got out of Dodge a lot.
Gosh. Is Philly going to go with another like athletic defensive tackle or something?
Well, they could take Byron Murphy here.
Yeah.
But like they got a lot of. I think they got a lot of guys in that rotation that.
I know.
Like,
I'm just saying that.
I know.
Just sticking with their old.
Oh gosh. Let's take Amarius Mims because it's like that's like basically taking the BYU tackle, like Adam said, but it's still like another just young high upside dart throw at that position. Because like, sure, okay.
So on the complete opposite side of that spectrum, you got the Houston Texans, who are seemingly don't have a massive amount of pieces, but have a massive amount of talent, and just feels like you can do a lot of things to take this from where they are to potential Super Bowl contention. I see a couple that stand out right now, but which way are you leaning?
I actually might lean Byron Murphy here.
Okay.
I think we got to get Byron Murphy in the first round. And I think this is somewhere that like fits. I know the simulator's going to like hate this pick because it's like at like 45 or something.
He's still it's a Packers pick.
And it's like the film speaks for itself. Dude's out of his mind rushing the passer. He plays with like just exceptionally good pad level. He's a speed to power type with a bunch of counters. He's not like Newton where he's just a one gapper where you're like, okay, he can't two gap. No, Murphy can two gap. And like to have that 3-down ability and like to see like him, I think it's really interesting to see him like have like almost the same number of pressures as Newton this year with like, I don't know, like 440 snaps compared to Newton's like 740.
Wow.
To me, that stands out in a big way. And I think teams already probably know, and the media is just catching up to this point.
Right.
You have him, you have Anderson, right? Maybe you're bringing Grenard back after a big, sack season. I don't know if he's, that player every year, but like, it's hard not to kind of bring him back. But like, if you have that front and you add a Murphy in there who can just wreak havoc, I think you're feeling pretty good about what that defense can do, next year and the year after that. So
yeah, it's an exciting combo when you've got the offense, you've got the quarterback, and now you're potentially a top pass rush front, or just a dominant front on defense to begin with. That's a team you don't want to play.
Yeah, and they're a team where it's like you're sitting here 23 and you're kind of like, we don't have to force the issue at any position right now.
Right.
Like we don't have to take the receiver. Like we got like Collins and Dell who can play well. Like, if teams just let us have Brock Bowers, sure, we'll take him. Like that's the team that could do that. Like they could take another corner. Like Mitchell from Toledo is somebody they could look at, or the other guys if they fall. Like they could do so many things that would make sense.
All right, Dallas Cowboys. I don't know. I know the fans feel like they need to burn it down and start over, but I think they've got a pretty good base to go with. Couple older pieces, especially on the offensive line, but what makes the most sense for you?
I think it's one of two players here. I think Troy Fontenot is definitely one of them. If they stick with Tyler Smith at left guard and they don't move him out to tackle, I think Fontenot comes in and plays left tackle right away and like just slide him in there and you know, you don't have to mess with the whole like, oh, can he play inside? Let's try him there. You know, can he do it? It's like, no, just play him where he was, you know, dominant pass protector at Washington at left tackle and leave it at that.
Sure.
Or they realize like, all right, this Mozzie Smith pick, that sucked. Didn't work. We better defend the run. And they just go get Tavondre Sweat, who's 6'4", 360 out of Texas, who can actually anchor the middle for them.
Yeah.
I lean Fontenot here because I don't know if they're going to like completely give up on Mozzie necessarily, right? This isn't going to be like any regime change where they're like, tear it all down. But they have, like you said, they used to just like offensive line. Like, we're not going to stop doing it. Like, we have no problem continuing to do this in the first. And I think they're going to like get back to it here. And I think they realize that. So yeah, I would go Troy Fontenot from Washington.
All right. We finally made it to the pick everybody's been waiting for. By the way, for those of you that are still hanging out with us, drop your comments below. We've got Keon Coleman, the wide receiver, Chop Robinson, edge rusher out of Penn State, Michael Penix, if you're feeling a little frisky, Braylon Trice, Quinion Mitchell, which I know is becoming a popular pick here. Let me know what you're thinking. But all right, with what's available, which way are you leaning?
Obviously, you know, we just don't have enough receivers. Just kidding. No, I
receiver.
I don't know. Goody staring at a 6'4", 210-pound receiver just ran like a 4.42.
Right?
Are you sure he's gonna like be like, oh yeah, we don't need that. I don't know. It'd be hilarious, honestly. You know, it'd be really funny if 3 months from now the Jets are like, oh, sensible, let's take a tackle in the first, and then Green Bay's like, receiver it is, baby. He's the best on the board, and it's just like Rodgers looking over there like, are you kidding me? What is this? Yeah, I think a lot of it's going to come down to if there's any scheme change, right? And that's obviously going to determine what. That's perfect. Like,
steal him.
We already it's like it's just like Ballard. Listen, I'll give you your 2 firsts after this year. Just give me DeGene if you can. That'd be great.
Don't be.
I'll give you 10 third-round picks for DeGene if you can. Yeah, this is tough because now that the Enigbare injury, right? How long is that gonna last? You know, is Preston gonna be a cap casualty? I think it's still a question you have to ask, even though I think the majority of us would be like, no, but he's played well, and like he's a really like great elder statesman force in that room to have. But at the same time, like Chop Robinson, explosive. His testing is going to be excellent, and like Goody just staring at an edge rusher with a bunch of athletic talent. That's probably gonna be tough for him. Braylon Trice obviously fits the size thresholds to a T, right? He's like 6'4", 265 to 270, somewhere in there. However, yeah, but see, Mike, Coleman's not like a superb deep threat. We need like I want the true speed.
Who is that guy here?
Troy Franklin is definitely one of them for sure. I just worry about the frame. 187 catching through contact is an issue on film right now. But he is that speed guy. Xavier Worthy is one of them for sure. Like we mentioned earlier, might run sub 4.3. It's possible. But he's like 170 pounds. Really, Devontae Walker from North Carolina is about as close to Watson as you can get as a prospect, in my opinion. I think he is. If you go watch him, you see like the long strides of a Christian Watson. You see him, flashing the ability to win the ball through the air. You also see just absurdly poor route break transitions, which is something that Watson had in college as well. And I just think those are the true speed guys. Yeah. Now, if you want the big ball winners like a Coleman, like an Adonai Mitchell, sure. But those other three have just different levels of speed. So where are we going to go, Ryan? Where are we going to go here? Truthfully, like secondary, I feel like is like the easy answer to that question that's presented to you. But where would you lean here as well? I figure you should obviously offer your own thoughts too. Don't get left out of this Green Bay conversation here.
Fair enough.
Do the Clifford stands want McCarthy?
As I mentioned to you, I know the from a PFF perspective, Chop Robinson is mega elite right here.
Yeah.
Mitchell, I don't know really anything about. I haven't really looked into it. That's kind of a newer name to me. I know I'm not that I've really watched a lot, but I'm not huge on Kinchins at all.
Okay.
I mean, I know that he's graded out not very well ever, and so whatever it is he does, it doesn't translate as well on the field. So I don't know if that's a developmental thing or what.
Yeah, I know Kinchins had I think he had like a 90 in 2022 grade, and I know this past year.
So it was, but the year before that was also bad, and then I think his 90 grade was based on like 2 or 3 games.
Sure.
So it was kind of a flukish sort of thing. So I just didn't know that I trusted it a ton. I think that's what it was.
Very understandable. Very understandable. Quinyon Mitchell for Toledo's had like 2 absurdly good seasons, and I know it's in the MAC. I know people are gonna freak out about that. Like, oh, but who is he covering? Future accountants, perhaps. It's like, yeah, but I mean, this is probably like the same kind of Christian Watson, Tucker Kraft conversation too, right? It's like you only play who you play against, and I mean, he has a coverage grade above 91 both years of the last 2, right? And like his tackling got a lot better, according to PFF at least this past year, which is excellent. And 27 PBUs, 6 picks the last 2 seasons. Instincts are off the charts. I think he's a great zone corner. From what I've seen, there's not a lot of Toledo film just hanging out, right?
Sure. Yeah, right, exactly.
But from what I've seen from a couple, like he is really instinctive and like those type of players. Like, and when the ball's thrown his way, not to reopen a scar that's kind of new or anything, but like he catches the ball when it's thrown his way, and like he'll house a few of them. He housed I think 3 of them last year.
And I think that is important because, like, even as much as we might or might not like Jair, he's never been a good ball hawk. Like he doesn't do a great job of coming down with those. I don't know that anybody that we have does a very good job of snagging the balls.
Stokes wasn't always the best at finding the football.
No,
and honestly, I'll be honest. I don't think when he's in like cover 3 or when he's carrying guys vertically, I don't think DeJean finds the ball super well. He needs to have his eyes on the whole field, and then I like him finding the ball.
Sure.
But like there are a couple guys in this draft where even they're in tight coverage and they're running full speed, like they can find it.
Yeah.
I think Mitchell can be one of those guys.
I think the hardest part for me here is the guys I really like are the guys that don't carry as much value.
Sure.
So I mean, you look at like defensive tackle, mid-second, like Tavondre Sweat, or obviously running back, but I mean that's stupid at this point. Sure. Safety, I like Newbin, but it just feels like we're kind of reaching on a not as premier position when we're sitting here in the first round with guys like, edge rushers sitting there.
I know.
So it's a question of like value versus need that is kind of a complicated thing. And Mitchell kind of makes the most sense as that intersection. I just don't know as much about him, but I would say if you would sign off on either him or Lassiter or whoever, that would probably be where I would lean.
Nick Cooper says trade down.
Trade down.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that works.
Would love to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I know. You make such a great point. Robinson's measurables, I think, are pretty close to Kingsley's. Right. Yeah. Kingsley wasn't like the biggest. He wasn't in the 270 range like the other guys were, if I remember correctly. Like he was more in. He might have been 260. Now I'm second guessing myself out here. And it was 258. Shoot. Yeah. Robinson's like, at least right now on PFF, he's on the dot 250.
Oh, and that was the other position is like Jackson Powers Johnson, but it's like that's
I think he's
second
worth
round
it.
At best.
I think I think he might be.
Yeah, but it's still the whole thing where it's like you pass on edge, corner, tackle to go with a center.
Yeah, I know. It's
not. I mean, look, if you hit on an elite center, if you get like a Corey Lindsley or something, you're not going to regret it. But it's a tough thing to do.
I'm good with going either Robinson or Mitchell. Trice to me is like, I get it, but also I'm just like picturing Packers fans like doing the same thing they do with a bunch of guys. Like, why aren't the sacks there? Why isn't he sacking the QB? It's like, well, he's got 70 pressures this year. What's the problem? He's like, well, he's not tackling. He's not tackling.
Right.
Like, I'm gonna lose my mind because he's not doing it. And so, yeah, I think you can go Chop Robinson
for the sake of my sanity. I'd rather have Chop Robinson.
Chop Robinson tackles better. He figured it out year over year.
All right, so you guys got to throw it in the comments. Are we going Chop Robinson or are we going Quinion Mitchell, edge rusher or corner? Those are your two options. Do not say a different option. Do not say
if you say McCarthy, you're getting thrown out of here.
JJ McCarthy. We got Chop already.
Okay, we got a Chop.
We got a Chop.
And we got
another one.
Rusher.
We're leaning one direction here.
You guys sound like you get.
I'm honestly a little surprised. I'll take the 70
like hate the Mac.
Yeah,
what it sounds like.
That's probably what it is.
That's what I'm hearing right now.
Chop. All right. Oh wait, no, that's a negative. Ooh. Chop feels like a one-trick pony.
Goose, you did not just do that.
Get out, Goose.
You didn't just do that. You didn't do that. Man.
All right.
So, like if you looked at like edge just up and down the board, I know we don't want to hark on it forever. But if you looked at edge and you looked at corner, to me, sometimes there are some guys that, again, that people aren't going to like this either. There are some guys in the smaller schools that have done really well. One of them is going to be down at the Senior Bowl next week. Marshawn Neeland from Western Michigan. Boy, he plays some bully ball on the edge, and he's in that size range where you go, oh yep, that's Packer size on the edge.
Okay. And
to me, like corner, my one concern about like, and I know like, oh, it's been super nice to get like a Valentine later in the draft, but like you see like the value of guys like Surtain and like that, like going high in the draft, and then Gardner, and I know Gardner, honestly, I don't know why he's been all pro first team the last 2 years, whatever, it's fine. But to me, like if you have, obviously we don't have any of them here, but if you get a chance to get one of those first four, it would be hard to pass. And I think like Mitchell, to me, like he is, I think people are gonna really fall in love with him when they get around to it. But it seems like Chop has
yeah. So well, I think Chop got it.
We'll go it. Get it done.
We spent all that time doing that just for everybody that sees this mock to just trash it and just be like, "Oh, you picked an edge rusher. You guys are idiots."
Yeah. Hey, I would be okay with Newman at 25, but will Green Bay? They love the premium stuff to them. Yeah. We know what it is, right? Will they take the liberties sometimes and go get a Quay Walker? Sure, they will. Mm-hmm. But like we kind of know like kind of how they operate.
I think maybe the one caveat might be if we get a defensive coordinator and it feels like that's the missing piece, they might go that direction. I think that might have been kind of a Quay thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like we need to get that for Barry. And I think otherwise, if it's left up to Gutekunst, I think he's going to lean for premium guys.
Yeah. And I think the one argument you could make is if you're very team safety in the comments is like, if you look at safety and you kind of, once you start to trickle down on the list, you go, who's this guy? Who's this guy? It's like, yeah, kind of like, because it's like either like if Kinchins is that dude, that's huge for the class because it's like him, Newman, Bullock, Bullard, and then it gets a little dicey.
Yeah.
Because they're just guys who might be better at nickel. And you could say that about some of the corners too, but if you look at a lot of the safeties, you're kind of like, okay, this guy's 185 pounds. Why is he playing safety and not nickel? That's not great. I don't like that. And
yeah,
that's the one concern I think I have with the safety class as a whole. And it's, it's got me frustrated the last few years because they haven't really addressed safety and they've kind of let it go. And it's that's just where
that probably is the problem. They get into it. They're like, it's a little too early. And by the time it's not too early, it's like, well, there's nobody on our board. So anyways, moving on.
Yeah. It's like there's this it's like, all right, guys, they're gonna be in the room in April. Guys, we really like this Newman cat. But if he gets to 40, only if he gets to 41. Yeah. Doesn't get to 41. All right, guys. So here's the problem. We're just, all right, call Rudy Ford back. We gotta call Savage. We're gonna get them on the phone.
Owen, see what he's doing.
Yeah, what's Owen's up to right now? Like, we'll get these guys on the phone. It'll be okay. And that's just
all right, let's move on to the next team. We got Tampa Bay up next.
Okay, so Nick, I'd be fine with that. I think if they want to pick between 30 and 100 6 times, I'm so in. I'm so in on that. Tampa Bay. I think the biggest caveat on Tampa Bay is if like Evans does leave. Because I think if Evans does leave, you're kind of left with Trey Palmer's a nice deep threat. He's kind of proven himself to be, kind of a factor there. You have Godwin, who just kind of basically, to me, what Godwin looks like Travis Kelce, like even right now, we're just kind of like, okay, he's not very fast. He'll catch the ball over the middle. But like, do you have got game breakers out there? Keon Coleman might just at this point kind of be the guy.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, he's probably lingering a little bit too long. So I'd probably lean that direction. Sure. I think they're going to extend Baker. I think they're going to be okay there.
All right. So we got the Arizona Cardinals back up. They had Marvin Harrison Jr. with their number 4 pick. So at 27.
Yeah. Yeah, this probably I think is where the floor for Quinion Mitchell is. I think he's probably like the 5th guy right now in that corner class. And like just based on what the Cardinals kind of need right now, if you look like roster wise, like I feel like I've kind of made some steps at edge. They could go Braylon Trice here. I wouldn't be too shocked about that. But like if they're finally, it looks like, right, we're finally serious at receiver. Let's get Marvin Harrison. Let's stop drafting 160-pound guys at receiver. Like we're serious now. And it's like, okay, let's not keep drafting day 3 players at corner. Let's go get like a potential, like just a guy out there. Like, and I think Mitchell, the way he plays in zone coverage and how good Gannon was with zone coverage with Philly like last year, to me screams like kind of like perfect fit. This guy will be a big part of what we do in zone coverage.
Goose, I was a little surprised that worked, so I'm not even using that. So I was just going to tell you, like, dude, that ain't going to work. I'm not using that today, but all right, I guess it still works. All right, so we're going Quinion Mitchell. Is that?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so. Arizona's got a lot of capital. I think they just kind of are going to just kind of like, well, here, the draft's coming to us. That guy's our best. And they'll just kind of keep doing that.
All right, Buffalo Bills, who freaking broke my heart. I was banking on them to finally get over the hump, finally knock Kansas City out, and once again, it was just the same old bull crap over and over again. Buffalo fails, Kansas City marches on. They're probably going to beat Baltimore. It's going to be Kansas City and the 49ers in the freaking Super Bowl. But anyways, what are we looking at with Buffalo Bill?
Man. I'm just trying to sit here. I'm like, what do they need? What do they?
Yeah.
It's just like I
don't know.
They need
to play better.
Yeah, that's it. That's really it right there. They need to find a way to win a close game against Kansas City in the postseason. Yeah. Like that. They just. I thought they did a nice job, and I was a little critical because, like, I was like, oh, why'd you go Kincaid in the first? You need the trenches. They got bullied for 60 minutes against Cincinnati in the divisional round last year. Kind of felt like they did a little bit again, especially on defense this time around. I mean, Ed Oliver's your pass rusher. T'Vondre Sweat's maybe the run stuffer here.
No.
I just think I know Leonard Taylor's the top guy right now on the consensus board. I think it's just a little redundant, to be honest. And I know they've kind of brought some guys in. Yes, Adam, I know they need receiver. I understand. But like if they draft another receiver again, and then I swear they get to the divisional round next year and they're getting pushed around, what is there to say? What is there to say? I don't know what to do. They have to commit. They got to commit to a team that's going to set a tone. I think they figured it out running the football a little bit better. But I don't think they figured it out, on the defensive line. Like I think you hover above Trice. Like I think that's entirely possible too. Like Von Miller, that contract's looking nice right now for them. And like Rousseau's been okay. Like he's getting a little better. Epinesa, that's not super ideal. So I could see them doing that. But I get where the chat is going, and I know a lot of their defense was hurt, but like a lot of their defense was like a nose tackle that made an impact for them and linebacker. Right? Like that's Sweat is potentially that long-term guy there. I also understand the idea of like a Troy Franklin running, past everybody down the field because they've got kind of all their possession players. If this is me, I'm going Sweat because I think they need it. And I think they can stop the retread of like 34-year-olds at defensive tackle who could try and clog up lanes. The receiver class is deep, and I know people want to keep forcing the issue. Maybe it's just because the the Packers fans in chat are like, we're good at receiver, just get them all off the board so we can get all the other positions. I that's fine. I echo that. That's good. I think Buffalo has to. I got to figure it out defensive line wise. They really do.
I don't know if it really matters. I don't think they seem to need anything except their head coach and their quarterback. But Kansas City, what else do you think they're going to add here?
Suddenly they can catch the ball. This is good. But
yeah, they were just screwing with everybody. They just got bored and like, what if we just lost a bunch of games and looked like we sucked, and then just turned it on against Buffalo and won the Super Bowl?
They're kind of like, we haven't experienced before winning on the road. Should we try that? Should we try that this time?
See if we can actually get a challenge this time.
If they win next week. That's what I think they did. I'm going to stick with that 100%. Forever. Like, can we win on the road? Yeah, let's try that. Let's try that. They're probably, I think it's receiver or tackle. I think they've shown, and I think they could be a Tavondre Sweat team, honestly, as well. And I know Chris Jones, I think, is a free agent too, which is interesting. So, like, they could be in the tackle world, but I think it's receiver or tackle here. I don't think that Donovan Smith, yikes. Even Jawan Taylor has not been great, and they've had to trot out a third-round rookie out there. But the problem is we've talked about, like, okay, what's the Chiefs' problem? They're dropping passes. Xavier Worthy's catch technique is disgusting sometimes. And Franklin sometimes can't catch through contact. So now you're sitting here like, well, who's got good hands? Who can catch the ball? And that's where I think, like, I think it's Adonai Mitchell or Tez Walker. I do. Like Tez Walker is enough speed, but also just reliable catching the football too. Mitchell's pretty loose athlete for like 6'4". This is a tough call. I'm gonna lean to what DJ put in his latest mock. Let's go Tez Walker. Let's make it interesting here at the end.
And that brings us to hopefully the team that's about to get kicked out here. As much as I hate San Francisco, I just don't think I can stomach Detroit going straight to the Super Bowl. So Detroit Lions, I got to give them a little bit of credit because I do feel like they still need a lot of stuff, but yet they're a pretty freaking good football team. So there's a lot of room for continued growth here. Which way are you leaning?
My biggest critique of them was like having Christian Gonzalez available to them and just like outright passing.
Yeah.
Although they got 3 players I really liked, and like Gibbs and Branch and Laporta. Campbell was very strange. Did not like that. I feel like they could have just taken Joey Porter Jr. I'm glad they didn't, of course.
Right.
Like that feels good. I don't think they're going to force the issue at corner with all those guys off now. Like Lassiter's maybe the best out there. Rakestraw, people like him a lot. Tampa's a big dude, like 6'2", 200.
That's everybody at Iowa State just massive. They got big wide receivers, big corners.
It does seem that way. It really does. Breece Hall's just big back running, 4.39, no problem. Like we're just, I don't know with like this group.
Yeah,
if they're gonna take a corner, this is gonna sting a little. This is probably Braylon Trice. It doesn't seem like Hutchinson's, kind of a little hot and cold sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they have much else, honestly.
They really don't.
Like they have that James Houston guy who's like a nice designated rusher at third downs.
Mm-hmm.
But like this is Trice, a base down player who I think is probably well worth it here.
All right, getting down to the finals here. San Francisco 49ers select a garbage kicker, not even the best kicker.
Yeah, kicker or running back, they love doing that. Are they like, what do I do with my hands? It's a first round pick. What do I do here? I don't know what to do. Yeah, I don't like giving them good things. This is tough. Okay. So this team, like, I think you've seen it as well. And if you look at PFF and even the film, I think it backs it up. Their offensive line, other than Trent Williams, it's like pretty below average. Like, it's not like they're just figuring it out. They're like, this, they've got like players who can do like one thing well for them. Like, can you zone block? Yep. Okay, good. You're on the team. Even if you're like not even a good run blocker overall, just zone block. This is where like BYU guy Kingsley Suamataia could make sense for them, just because he's super young, super athletic, and they're gonna need help there. I just don't like, to me, like nothing else like super jumps out with like what they need. Like, obviously, if they keep Chase Young or not matters, but yeah, I don't think it's going to be anything other than O-line. I think they probably
could they go Jackson Powers Johnson.
They could. Who's off to tackle? That's got, I don't know if there's anybody with like flexibility. I know people think Morgan can play guard. They might like Guyton a lot. Guyton's probably somebody we got to get off the board here, just because I think there's a lot of smoke about him going pretty high just because of the traits and the athleticism built into one.
Sure.
Yeah, let's roll with that. I think Powers Johnson's really, really good, but potential tackle move there.
Well, and it's really scary to think what San Francisco's doing with the offensive line that they have. Then you think, what if they had a good offensive line? Like, well, then they just never lose, I guess. So
it's like, what if they had like Penei Sewell also with Trent Williams? Like, what happens then? It's like,
oh Lord.
Yeah.
Good thing Trent Williams is like 58 years old.
Yeah, seriously.
All right, and then we got our Super Bowl champion, hopefully Baltimore Ravens, the only team left in the playoffs that I don't hate.
We just got to find the best player that we both like on the board. That's it. That's it. That's Eric DeCosta's on Twitter. I know he is. I just feel like every year it's just like, whose draft Twitter's like favorite 5 prospects? Nice. They're all Ravens. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we scroll down just a little? I know we didn't. I know people are gonna be like, you didn't get a 4th quarterback in here, you donkey. How could you do that? Oh, yeah, I've got it. I think I've got it. So Leonard Taylor from Miami is super strange because Miami was like, oh, you're extremely, extremely good playing 3 tech. Yeah, we'll play it nose. Let's see how that goes. They're like, and it's like, why? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
And it just feels like it's almost like a perfect 1-to-1. Like, we'll let Madubuike walk. That's a lot of money. Not sure we're going to, give him that much. And just Taylor comes in and just does exactly the same thing. And it's like, yeah, that makes Ravens. Sure. 100%. Like, I think that, to me, like, I think he's going to dominate the Shrine Bowl. People are like, oh, yeah, he's elite pass rusher. And they'll go back to the film and be like, what happened? And then you see him lined up over the center and you're like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Like, it's like we're playing a 360-pound guy on the edge. It's like, it just makes no sense. But like, I think that's where we kind of roll. I don't know. I mean, it could be tackle as well. That's what's insane. Like, you could go, Ryan, I don't know if you've ran through round 1 other than this one, but like, if you did and you just like, do they need a tackle? Like, almost always the answer is yes for a lot of these teams. It's just like how the play has. But let's go Leonard Taylor. Let's get spicy here at the end, I think.
All right. Good deal. All right, so I guess there were a couple things you wanted to touch on, like potential quarterbacks teams could jump back in for.
Yeah, I think, right, like a lot of it is going to depend on, I think a lot of it is New England, right? Like, are they actually going to do like we'll pass at 3?
Yeah.
Then it's a team that I think could come up and do it. Same for Washington, but I have no idea why they would do that, right? Like, they have 2 early seconds. I'm trying to think. This is so bad. I got to pull up the Tankathon board because I don't even know picks in the 30s.
Oh yeah.
Been so focused on like the prospects themselves, I just forget what the freaking order is.
Yeah, so Carolina, New England, Arizona, Washington, Chargers, Tennessee. It'd be hilarious if Carolina did.
I was like, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, Carolina might need a quarterback.
Yeah.
No,
be like the Rosen thing.
Yeah, it could. It very well could. I think you look at Minnesota at 42. I think you look at even the Giants at 39. Somebody could just kind of leap in there and grab that fifth-year option.
Sure.
Atlanta, if they don't land the veteran, but if they're going Bill Belichick, it just doesn't feel like they're a team that's like, oh yes, let's get a 20-year-old JJ McCarthy on our team. Because Bill's going to be around super long enough to ride with him 20 years until he's 90. Yeah, the Giants, I guess they have 2 twos. I see that now. 39 and 47. That's a team that could definitely jump in. They get their potentially they either get like we gave them all. Maybe they get their receiver that they want for a wide receiver 1, then they come back in. But I do think, we kind of mentioned it a little bit that you look at the 3-team stretch of Minnesota, Denver, and Vegas of like, okay, does the pressure of the demand at the quarterback position relative to the supply, like, does that kind of force our hand even earlier than we'd like to? Yeah, I think it's possible. I really do. Even New Orleans, as crazy as it sounds, like we know what Derek Carr is, right? Like they could do it as well. And we mentioned it for Pittsburgh. It's like we didn't put a 4th quarterback in the first. Like there's at some point in the process we'll have done so. But I do think all of these 32 are guys that we should probably be talking about a lot in first round conversation.
All right. Well, that was as far as mocks go, at least for me, that actually went relatively quick. So you guys have a good rest of your day. Jake, thanks for jumping on and doing this with me. I'm going to be leaning on you a lot because I'm just getting into this. But you
guys should just keep me busy as much as possible. That's fine.
Be sure to reach out. I think next week we talked about possibly doing a Packers 7 round. So stay tuned for that. We'll probably plan it for Monday just because I feel like mock draft Monday needs to be a thing. I don't know why. It's kind of stupid. But anyways, all right, you guys have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk to you later.